Thank you for joining us on the program from the National Assembly. I am Ignatius Nkwo. Well, the Senate will not be sitting today, and because of that, we'll bring to you a package on the first day of the public hearing by the Joint Committee on Finance and National Planning on the 2021-2023 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and Fiscal Strategy paper.
As you are all aware, this is the first process that we have to go through before the eventual laying and presentation of the appropriation bill before the National Assembly by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let me commend the President of the Senate, the leadership of the Senate, and the entire national senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the passage of 2019 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework, as well as the amended version. Mr. President, the leadership of the Senate, distinguished colleagues, this year's Medium-Term Expenditure Framework is a very unique one. And that is why I refer to the President of the Senate as Mr. First. As you all are aware, that this is the first time that the National Assembly will be passing the budget within a financial year, that is from January to December of every year. This year is no different, as that is the reason why we are starting the consideration of the Medium-Term Expenditure Framework in earnest, so as to ensure that the executive present and lay the budget before the National Assembly within the third quarter of the year. This year's consideration, as we're all aware, there is a global crisis, which is the global pandemic that has taken over the entire length and breadth of the global economy. So, this year, we will be looking into the document from 5 major angles. Number one, we'll be looking at the benchmark for this year medium-term expenditure framework as proposed by the executive arm of the government. We will also be looking at the exchange rate as also been proposed by the federal government. We will also be considering the revenue target of 50 revenue-generating agencies of the government, which has been categorized into 3 major categories. Number one, those agencies that are fully funded from the federal budget, those that are partially funded from the federal budget, and those that are financially independent of the budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We will also be looking at other sources of revenue, which include revenue accruing from the Nigeria Liquefied Natural Gas, the LNG, and all other agencies of the government that make contribution to the coffers of the government through payment of dividend from partially owned government agencies. All these and more are issues that we'll be considering in this year's Medium-Term Expenditure Framework 2021-2023. Let me assure you that all revenue-generating agencies within the catchment of the federal executive that is to contribute to this year's revenue profile of the government will definitely be invited to make their own contribution. Already, the executive have submitted before the National Assembly the expected revenue from all the agencies of the government, which is currently before us. The Minister of Finance and our team will be appearing before the Senate Committee on Finance and National Planning, and all other agencies can be invited and their document properly scrutinized before the committee. Once more, on behalf of the Committee on Finance and National Planning, I want to thank all our invited guests, the Nigerian Immigration Service, We want to hear from you all this revenue source that you have generated for the past years. Where has it gone to? What has been your contribution to the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the government over the years, and the prospect for year 2021-2023 medium-term expenditure framework? So you have the floor. Please go ahead.
Nigerian Immigration Service is an agency of government under the Ministry of Interior, and our duties that generate revenue is derived from the Act of the National Assembly. What are the duties that generate this revenue? Issuance of passport, issuance of visa, control and entry of persons in and out of Nigeria. These are the three main sources that brings revenue. And I'm glad to say that all this revenue are generated under a PPP partnership, which was signed before the coming of this administration. So it's an old PPP that has been signed between Ministry of Interior and technical partners. So the sharing formula of this PPP differs, and the formula differs greatly. But in general terms, this revenue is accrued in favor of the technical partners and government itself. How does it work? The technical partners invest their money 100% in the PPP. Government invests by putting labor and providing spaces. So we cannot say government doesn't invest. Government invested in its people and in its resources it has. With this investment together, we are able to give revenue to government. So it's very important to understand that the PPP system works in certain instances because government doesn't put money, but government gets money in the PPP system. And the revenue generated is in Naira and dollar. The Naira component are the services that are done in Nigeria. The dollar component are revenues accrued by our foreign missions abroad. The Naira component services the PPP. This is very important. The dollar component that is paid for visa and passport is paid directly to federal government consolidated revenue account. So, which means the system does not use the dollar paid for passport, for visa abroad, internally. It is the revenue that is generated internally for passport and other services that it is used to service the system. That's how the system works. I would like also to state that except for one PPP, which is resident permit, all the payments are paid through TSA. It means the money is paid to government and government pays to the technical partners. But for resident permit, which is contact versus Ministry of Interior, the agreement signed is that the money is shared even before it goes to TSA. We projected that we'll be able to generate 22,158,077,462.25. But we are able only to generate 16 billion. We generated 16,777,643,537. The reason is very clear because we introduced a new generation passport. The price of the passport is higher than the old one. We thought we could roll in all the states, but we are not able to roll. So that's why there was a little shortfall. But the revenue is not lower than last year. Only the prediction is lower. It is not lower. Because if you look at what we generated last year, the actual is 16 billion. If you look at what we generated actually in 2018 is 14 billion. So there was increase in it, but less in projection. In 2020, we dreamed that we would generate 23,265,981,335.36. But unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we are only now, because the passport offices have been closed, especially within the period of the COVID-19, we just started opening the passport offices. So we have only generated, as at 30th of June 2020, we only generated in passport 5,714,765 760,005. So we hope, since we have opened our passport offices, we hope if we can be able to cope up, at least get more revenue than last year, but without probably getting the target. We have ECOWAS and African Affairs. If I read it, it's a long list, but I'll continue reading it for you. ECOWAS and African Affairs, these are permits given to ECOWAS citizens. The revenue projection was 79 million because they pay very little amount for passport. Resident permit 384,184, but in 2018 we almost doubled it. We were able to make 126 million, 136,960. This the projection was in 2019. The projection was 132 million, 445,908, but we were able to do less.
The contractual agreement, which started in 2007 with initial payment of $350 per expatriate resident permit, has graduated to $2,000 per permit with a sharing formula of 55% to contact and 33% to Nigerian government.
When a passport is paid by individual, the money goes to CBN treasury account. And in that account, we pay the technical partners, we pay the sub-treasurer, the percentage for government, we pay federal inland revenue for the tax. The agreement signed between Ministry of Interior and Quantec and Polaris Bank was that if somebody buys, a non-Nigerian buys resident permit, the money is shared between Quantec, Interior, and revenue. So they transfer the money.
But what ratio is it shared?
Let me check for Quantec.
Can you get us the ratio of sharing between Nigeria and Quantec, and how much eventually gets to the consolidated revenue fund of the federal government?
So here we are. For Quantec, which is called combined expatriate resident permit and alien card. So this is a permit given for people who are not Nigerian citizens, but also who are not citizens of ECOWAS. The total cost, initially, the cost of the permit started was only 1,000. It started only with 1,000. Yeah. So at that 1,000, Quantec collects 72%.
70%?
72%.
72?
Yes, percent.
So eventually,
government collects 20.
When somebody collects 1 permit, Quantec will collect 729.
That's clear agreement signed between the ministry and at that time. And
720, so only 280 is paid to Nigeria.
Yes, that's what it is. But when that was when it was $1,000.
Okay, $1,000
then less. Later, the Ministry of Interior changed the price to $2,000. $2,000, yes, and adjusted the payment model.
Okay.
To Quantec 55%.
55.
Yes. Federal government of Nigeria 33%. Nigerian Immigration Service operating cost 7%.
Sorry, I want to take it. Quantec collects
55%.
55%.
Federal government 33%.
FG 33%.
Nigerian Immigration Service operation cost 7%.
Nigeria?
Immigration Service 7%.
Okay, immigration 7%.
Ministry of Interior 5%.
Ministry of Interior
5%.
5%. So that's how they share the money share.
And I can read the total cost of the money collected annually by Quantec, if you want to hear.
Sir?
I can read how the revenue is shared for the whole period 2018, 2019, 2020. I can read it for you if you want to hear.
You have informed us that prior to now it was 72%.
Yes.
Now it's 55%. 33 to federal government, 7 to your agency, and 5 to federal Ministry of Interior.
Yes.
Who signed this agreement?
Ministry of Interior.
When was this agreement signed?
I think 2007. Later they reviewed it in 2000 and just last year. It was 2019. They reviewed it.
It was signed last year.
No, reviewed to $2,000.
Reviewed.
Yes.
And you believe that we have an option of coming out of this?
Actually, I want to state clearly that we have taken the case to Ministry of Justice. The Attorney General is looking at it.
You said 7% goes to you?
Yes.
For the running of the service?
Yes.
Okay. Aside this, is there any other sources of revenue that the service takes from aside this content alone? Because we are looking at the option of bringing more revenue, and at the same time, if we have revenue generating agencies that generate more, maybe we can take you out of the current expenditure of the federal government or the capital expenditure, depending on what our push to be. And that is why we are asking that this 7% on content, is there any other sources of revenue accruing to the Nigerian Immigration Service?
Yes, there are. I can read them.
Tell us.
We can start by passport.
Passport, how much comes to in passports?
The passport, the sharing formula is different, but I can...
What's the sharing formula for passports?
It is based not on percentage, but on fee.
On fee.
It started with a fee. When the price changes, also it changes. Yeah. I give you an example for passport fee. New York Solution. No, Irish are paid according to price. Irish Smart Technology is a company that is responsible for networking and selling the booklet. That's the agreement signed between it and the Ministry of Interior. So what the system does, it buys the booklets from them. So there is first agreement for payment of booklets.
Whatever way you want to put it, it must still come by way of percentage.
No.
There are many sources of revenue that can be generated through immigration service. The capacity they are getting is less than 20% of what their capacity should have been. I want to tell this committee that we can't jump into conclusion with only the briefing of the CG. This committee will need to ask for information, involve the current Minister of Internal Affairs, bring this contest people, and let them look at what they have on table. There are many sources that is being blocked by immigration officials themselves that reduces the capacity of the consultant to deliver on their mandate. So, sir, I want to bring this committee, the immigration CG, need to properly brief us, give us components of this agreement, bring all the parties together. The agreement signed with the Ministry of Interior. The new Ministry of Interior is new to it, it's new. I've been debating, let us sit together to look at this together, because the capacity they are getting today, Mr. Chairman and the colleague, is less than 20% of their achievable capacity. And therefore, we have to critically look at this. Because what they are putting in the paper here is less than 20% of what can be brought on the government purse. The low percentages can be reduced. But when you talk about the large scale, you see we're talking about 50%, 55% of 1 billion is different from 55% of 40% of 80 billion. So when we look at that percentage, let us look at the capacity, the sources available. Even to the consultant that the civil servants are blocking. They are supposed to generate registration of immigrants to this economy within a period of 4 years. The action of the immigration officials has limited the registration. By now, they should have registered more than 10, 50 million, 50,000, more than 10 million immigrants in this country. But as we speak, sir, it's less than 20% of what they have captured. A lot of immigrants are in this country without being registered, without being captured, because the immigration officials frustrated consultants from capturing those who are supposed to pay. They are collecting even $5,000 behind the back door. Many immigration officials are doing that. But what is coming to government is about 2,000 those who are inside this country. Invite the Minister of Interior, invite these consultants, let us look at it critically. We can triple what revenue they are projecting here if all loopholes are blocked. That's my submission, sir.
There is need for us to go on a very, very, very elaborate investigation into all of this in a bid for us to get more revenue for us as a country, because that is what is paramount, and that's what is germane to us as a committee. But because we are working within a time frame and a tight schedule, we will take enough information as we can take today, and maybe after the consideration of MTF, the committee can now come in form of a proper investigation into the revenue sources of the Nigerian immigration.
When it started, it was $350. Am I right? When the project took off, and the project involves federal government, immigration, and the company. Ministry of Interior. Yes, Ministry of Interior through the immigration. So it started at $350 per person. Am I right, sir? Then it jumps to $700 per person. Am I right? That is an increase of 50% within a short period. And from $700, it jumps to $1,000. That is another 30% increase. Then from the $1,000, it jumps automatically to $2,000. That is another 100% per person. And they pay their part is being paid in dollar without any fixed rate to the naira. The meaning is that if dollar today, that is official rate is about 380 naira, and if one needs to renew his or her SAPA residence permit, you have to now do 380 naira times 2,000, which is a huge money. And yes, the payment goes to there is a ratio for the revenue, for the sharing formula. But I want to believe this company are they are once determining the rate of this payment. I want to believe the government of Nigeria is not part of it, because the government has always been soliciting that and emphasizing that we should encourage investment and not to discourage investment. From what I've just said, from with this short span, you are jumping from 350 to 2,000. Certainly, I want to believe the government of Nigeria is not part of determining this changes in the rate. Maybe the company is solely responsible for that, and then selling the idea to the ministry, and then the ministry accepting it for whatever reason, I don't know. But I think this is really not good for the revenue generation of this country. If we are looking at boosting economy and promoting business investment in this country, this is really not good. And Mr. Chairman, I will urge that this committee should really look into that, because there is no way you start something at 350 within a short period. You are now jumping to 2,000. And one jump alone from $1,000 to $2,000. I mean, without any explanation, just like that. You see that a lot of all this expatriate going back, even with this, because I cannot earn my payment in naira, and then I will not go and pay for residence permit for 1 year, because residence permit is for 1 year. You renew it every year. Yeah. Then as the dollar, we are having devaluation in dollar, I will still be compelled to pay my residence permit in dollar. It doesn't work like that. It would have been more if this thing is allowed to be liberalized, and we have to make a fixed rate in naira. This thing has to be paid in naira, not dollar.
I want to know, in all of these revenue sources, how much comes to you as an agency in a month or in a year? No, it's not 7% alone. That is just one. Yeah, that is only one out of about 7 sources. I'm coming. You have to tell us how much comes to you on passport, how much comes to you on biometrics, how much comes to you on all of this at the end of the day. Then we have a figure. Then other my colleagues can now ask questions. So please, you have the floor.
Immigration officers are not blocking contact, distinguished senator. And if they are blocking contact, it's a good idea because contact is not a good company for Nigeria. Nobody should depend on contact as a company that should do business in Nigeria. This is a company that took us to court. This is a company that wanted to seize our property, including our mission and NNPC building.
Where?
In present NNPC building, they took us to UK arbitration panel, where we are asked to pay 8 billion naira. And then why should we defend this company? As far as we are concerned, this company has no value for Nigeria. And I have to say it. I'm not committed to the company. I'm not interested in the company, what they do. As far as we are concerned, that job we can do. It's a job we can do. $2,000 for resident permit. If that $2,000, you can make the resident permit with $500. $1,500 can go to federal government to throw away the company. Government will make more money. So we cannot say we are blocking the company. We are not blocking the company. We are operatives. We know what is wrong with the system, and we kept saying it. I have written almost a book on contact, distinguished senator. The issue distinguished senator raised is a valid issue. Prices keep increasing for resident permit without added value. We wrote, I have written. If you increase the cost of resident permit from 750 to 1,000 to 2,000, it is not the fault of the current Minister of Interior. It's not the fault of this administration. But the truth of the matter is that you cannot increase price to $2,000 and change the formula, and when you accumulate the change, you find that the revenue they are sitting getting more. They are getting more than before, because 72% of 1,000 compared with 2,000 is higher. I have the details here with me. I can read it for you. So please, we wrote, and I have the paper, and the case has gone to even EFCC. We have written that we are against contact, and I said it here. But the Minister of Justice is doing something about it. There is no justification to increase price to $2,000 because you have not added value to the system. There is no added value. What we did in increase in passport, we added value in passport. We increased the pages of the passport. We increased the security of the passport. We made it 10 years, the passport. Yeah? So we added value, but contact did not add value to resident permit to make it 2,000. Secondly,
the contract is for how many years?
The contract is made not to end because we realize this issue. That's what it means, because it says the contract should end after production of 900 resident permit.
So we have not prevailed to now.
We cannot reach. It will tie us to 6 years again. I'm sorry to say, yes, I have the figures. So they are happy to keep us like that so they can make money. We also wrote that in addition that they didn't add value, they will increase immigration crime. If migrants are forced to pay $2,000, they will begin to create crime. We wrote when the increase was made. We are not consulted, but we wrote the implication of the increase to $2,000. I wrote. And let me tell you, the evidence has emerged. A lot of fake marriages, we have been deported expatriates from fake marriage. Because if you marry a Nigerian, you don't pay. Yes, if you marry a Nigerian, you don't pay the $2,000. So there is arranged marriage going on. We have been deporting foreigners for fake marriage.
If you marry a Nigerian,
yes, you don't pay.
You don't pay $2,000.
Yes, you are a spouse of Nigerian.
So they are doing a lot of arranged marriage. And we have been deporting for people arranged marriage. So what we are saying, the increase does not have value. What she said is against investment. You are not encouraging investment for it. So please, we are not in support of contact. And I'm ready for any investigation on content. We are ready to work with the National Assembly. We have been working, but the problem is that doesn't come up. In 2018, the actual performance was 20,358,233 naira. What did the contact collect that period? They collected 15 billion. Out of the 20 billion.
Yes. In 2019, what happened? Actual money revenue performance was 40 billion. If you go down, how much do you pay contact? 23 billion. So why should this happen?
When we knew we were going to be working again for another company that is not a Nigerian company that will be stealing our money, what did you do, and what are you doing right now to ensure that that does not continue? Because if you were part of it, you should have told them these things that we now know, and by that that adjustment should have happened immediately. That's number one. Number two, are we supposed to be working for Contech? And are you saying it is impossible to break this contract and for us to be able to do it properly once and for all?
As I said, I don't sign the agreement, but I always make my observation as a Controller General, and I have made that observation after the review of the price. When you are not consulted, when a price is increased, you have a responsibility to say, even though you didn't consult me, these are my views. I have written, distinguished Senator. I can give you the copy of what I wrote. So we have written. Secondly, can we do without content? We can do without content. That's a simple thing I can tell you. We can do without it. As a public servant, each public servant has a responsibility. I cannot make policy. But if the person who makes policy without consulting the operative has the right to make a comment. And I made the comment, and the comment is available. If you like to see it, we can give it to you. Thank you.
I want to comment on this contract issue. It appears to me from what Senator Ayo, Chairman of has said to us today, and what the CG is also saying, that there's a dispute over the contract that Contact has with the Ministry of Interior. And while we're hearing different sides of the story, I think that this calls for a full-blown investigation into this matter. I'm not sure that it's a matter that we can resolve here today. So I want to suggest, as you have suggested, Mr. Chairman, that we set aside the contact issue for now and come back in the session in September and carry out a full-blown investigation into this matter, because these issues are not clear. On the one hand, we're hearing that Contact somehow messed up on their contract. In fact, we're hearing that issue of the contract itself was somehow funny. But on the other hand, we're hearing that the contract has been frustrated by immigration officials themselves. So clearly there's a dispute, and we need to get to the bottom of this matter and resolve it once and for all. I mean, a situation where we are paying so much to this company and receiving so little is a situation that cannot be condoned by this service. And so we must get to the bottom of this matter in a full-blown investigation, not piecemeal. So I want to support your stance that we should set aside the contact issue for now and come back with a full-blown investigation into this matter.
As of June 2020, it's about 1.5 billion, which is basically used to run this service. Will you agree, if this committee recommends that at least you should be partly funded and not fully funded by the federal government in light of that revenue that you generate by removing your overhead expenditure from the national budget? It's just a question. We want to know your position with that, because I must tell you this. We are in a challenging time. The global pandemic is real, and the country is going through a lot. The economy of many countries are going to recession. And any sources that we can save money to implement our budget, we will go all out to ensure. And you, as one of the agencies of the government that generates revenue, and you are still fully funded by the federal government, and some of this revenue is retained by you, I am seeking or asking from you that will be out of place if we return you to one of those agencies that are partly funded by the federal government. That is, we retain the salary structure paid by the from the budget, the capital expenditure from the budget, while the recurrent aspect that you should be taken out from, so that you use the revenue accruing to you from all these sources of revenue for your recurrent expenditure going forward. Because this is the sixth. As of June 2020, you have generated 1.4 billion. So by December, you can go as much as 3 to 4 billion at the end of the year for recurrent expenditures. So my own question is, will you agree if this committee recommends that Nigerian Immigration Service be partly funded from the government? It's a question. It's not a formation. It's a question. So we want to listen. Your position is a question.
I Are we doing the same thing with 1 billion with the money you have given us in recurrent? The answer is no. When you give us 1 billion under revenue, what do? We buy ink, we buy service materials, we do intervention. I give you an example. We have 42 passport offices in overseas, abroad. But we have Caribbean countries. We have somewhere far east in Iceland. We go every day to do intervention, and Nigerian students are there to capture them and we pay in this issue. We also pay part of this revenue to our technology building. Anybody who has been to our office recently, you will see a building, technology building. We are paying for it, so we are not wasting the money. It's inevitable. But if you want to withdraw funding, allow us to take the money from technical partners so that we can do better, instead of it to take away from the little one we are using to service the system. Because the immigration is a cash cow. If well managed, can make revenue for government, not only in Nigeria, but in missions abroad.
It's a cash cow.
Yes, it is. I'm proud to say immigration can make money even in missions abroad. Because we generate, look at the dollar component we generate abroad. This year, we want to even add additional money to the dollar component so that we will increase the revenue for government. In some countries, some missions are funded by the visa and passport they generate. You know, we have a dream. We can think with you towards that. But the issue is that don't target the 1 billion. Target those people who don't do anything. So, 1 billion. Don't target that 1 billion. There are people who do nothing. They brought a card which cannot open a door, which cannot open a gate. They had 20 billion. Give it to us, we'll do better.
How much was approved the current expenditure for last year?
2 billion only. 2 billion? Yes.
And 1.4 billion as revenue.
I told you, we are not doing the same thing. That's what I'm telling you.
At the end of the year, you are putting about 3 billion.
Distinguish, if you said we should do the current with that activity, then you add to the current, no problem. All what we do, we tell you what do we do with the money. I think that's what you want to know. We tell you what do we do with the money, how do you spend the money.
I would like to know.
Yes, we can tell you, so that we will do that.
We are looking at the projection given to us by your agency, that if as at June, you have generated 1.4 billion. And the total recurrent expenditure in the proposed 2019 budget that was passed by this House is 2 billion. By December, you will have doubled this figure to about 3 to 4 billion. So we are saying that already you have, looking at your recurrent expenditure, you have already taken it. So this 2 billion that we give to you can also be channeled to another sources. So that while we take care of you from the salaries and the capital alone, and this recurring, we save money for the government. I'm only thinking aloud. When you come, give us the document that shows clearly what all these revenues are meant for, what are they used for on the year by year. And you give us a 3 years plan, what you use it for in 2018, in 2019, as at 2020. And that will guide our line of decision at the end of the day concerning revenue accruing to you from other sources. If all this revenue, nothing has come to you, everything goes to the consolidated revenue fund, there will not have been any issue. But since you take part of this as your own recurrent expenditure, which we will target to be, then there is a lot of questions asking for answers. And we will not take anything from the spot just scribbled to you by somebody. Go get us the details about what this is the revenue accruing to us. In 2019, for instance, what accrued to is well above 6 billion from these other sources of revenue. And the total expenditure approved by the national budget is about 3-point-something billion. You got about 6 billion from 2019. You spend that money without any recourse back to the National Assembly. So we are asking that if much, to whom much is given, much is expected. If we are doing that, then let us take our own recurrent expenditure, which is given to Nigerian immigration, to another sources, to fund other sources of this thing, and you continue to use that revenue going forward. Or you want us to make pronouncement that all that accrue to you as revenue from other sources go to the consolidated revenue fund, it doesn't come to you. And I know that is your best bet, and I don't want to touch your best bet. But the one in that budget, I want you to look at it, critically digest it, and come back to us with a report. If you are ready to allow government not to provide recurrent expenditure, and they can give you salaries and capital while the current expenditure, we can use it for other. It's in your own kit. I want you to look at it. Or you will not leave, you will leave us with no other option than to take those percentage accruing to you into the consolidated revenue fund, and we continue to give you your recurrent expenditure. The choice is yours. Go, seconded. Look at it, digest it, and you come back to us. Thank you.
Seconded. I say seconded.
We will bring to you a proposal of what we can do to make money better for government. Because the most important issue, you want to increase spending for government. So we will tell you that the job A, B, C done by technical partners, we can do it. And if we do it, we'll increase the cost of government revenue to government by probably 70%. I'm just giving you an example. Even the revenue we collect, the 1 billion you see, we deposit 30% to government again. So we'll show you evidence that we have paid. Even the 1 billion we pay. And we can tell you also that we can even make some mission sufficient. So a good proposal will come.
We want you, the Honorable Minister of Interior or Internal Affairs and City Custom, to appear tomorrow 11 o'clock. Immigration.
The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority at the hearing was queried over the expenditure of 11.1 billion naira without approval. The committee therefore requested the authority to also appear before it on Thursday with the Minister of Aviation for further explanations. It cautions that any government agency, whether fully, partially or self-funded, that fails to appear before it will risk zero allocation in the coming fiscal year.
I want you to tell us why we should continue to fund you from the federal government budget. The proposed revenue for year 2021, what you have generated in the past, and how much of this revenue will you spend as an agency?
The NCAA is sustained wholly by its internally generated revenue. It does not receive any funds from the federal government. For 2018, NCAA generated 18.339 billion.
Yeah.
For 2019, we generated 18.677 billion. And for 2020, January to July, we have generated 8.634 billion.
For 8.634
billion for January 2020.
How do you fund your expenditure?
Okay, our sources of revenue.
How do you fund your expenditure? Is it from the federal government budget or from this revenue?
From this revenue we generate. We're not funded from the federal government at all.
We are not taking anything from the federal government?
Nothing, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
how much do you contribute to the government coffers in 2018, in 2019, and in 2020?
In 2018, we contributed 1.6 billion. In 2019, we contributed 3 billion. In 2020, from January to July, we've contributed 700 million. 700 million.
700 million?
Yes, sir.
To date?
Yes, sir.
But can't you do better?
Well, with the present situation, that is just what is causing our concern.
The staff salary is paid from where?
From the IGR, sir.
What is the staff pay?
1,400.
What is your week bill?
555.60. 60 million.
For the 1,400 staff?
Yes, sir.
560 million?
Yes, sir.
So what do you now do with the 16 billion according to you?
So
because you said you generated 18 billion in 2019.
Yes, sir.
And your wage bill is 555.
Yes, sir.
And if you put that into calculation, that means about 6 billion naira.
Yes, sir.
Is your wage bill in the financial year.
Yes, sir.
Leaving you with about 13 billion.
Yes, sir.
And you only contributed 1.6 billion to the consolidated revenue fund.
Yes, sir.
So you are left with about 11.5 billion.
Yes, sir.
As the current expenditure.
Yes, sir.
What are those things that you have engaged in, that you have expended this 11 point something billion in the financial year?
The NTA is a regulatory agency. It regulates the activities of the aviation industry. And for it to be able to do that, it is important that it oversights the activities of the airlines. And part of that activity is the inspection of the aircraft, ensuring that the pilots the engineers are actually doing the activities they're supposed to do to make the industry safe and secure. So major activity of NTA is training of its staff to ensure that they are able and have the capacity to check whatever they're supposed to check to ensure the aviation industry is safe for the public. So we spend most of this money on training, and part of this training is international, because our staff have to get the currency training to make sure that they are able to check the activities of the airlines. So basically, the mainstay of NCA is training, and a lot of this training is foreign as well. So that is the major. We hardly do any of this capital development.
And we are up to the billion. If you generate 18.6 billion in a year, you have a sweet bill of 6 billion, and you get 3 billion as surplus of the global expenditure. That comes to 9 billion. And the 9 billion is expecting all day-to-day activity to ensure that the pilot fulfills the number of hours, the aircraft is in good condition. Do you go there to check the mechanics or what? I want to know what that 9 billion has been used for. So why we are saying this is that if it is another very good source for us to save money, we might say that we only pay salary, we release part of some certain amount for you as recurrent, and the rest we pay to the consolidated revenue fund account of the government. Except we are able to prove before this committee, expenditure incurred by you, but all this revenue generated are very germane and very important and sensitive to NCA before we grant you the order for you to continue to spend that money in that manner which you currently have. You must come to us in a clear term. Frivolous expenditure will not be celebrated. The whole world is currently bleeding. Many economy is going through recession. 9 billion on this part of the divide to fund this budget, I'm telling you, we will not win. So I want you to critically justify reason why this committee should support you to continue to spend that huge amount of money on recurrent expenditure. Because what you have told me here, if going by what we call inspection, which I at least privy to one on two, I will say I disagree with you. But before I go ahead to say that, I want to give you another opportunity to defend your position. Why? This committee should give the norm for you to continue to expend 9 billion on recurrent expenditure that we can only about 11 billion. Please, madam, you need to explain. We need good explanation, good justification to support this. You have the floor, please go ahead.
In support of what the chairman have said, I think you need to also go back and bring a written form. The expenditure, this recurrent expenditure that you talked about, that you expend about 11 billion, because from the deduction he has made, what is left for this training is about 11 billion. We're talking about 2019. Now, if we expend, you contribute 1.something billion and expend about 11 billion on recurrent expenditure, which of course is basically consumption. Where we are today, with a budget deficit of about over 5 trillion, I think that we must optimize every revenue that we need to have. So what he's saying is that unless you justifiably make a good presentation, moving forward, we need to reduce your expenditure so that we can enhance the revenue in order to finance the deficit that we have.
Now you have accumulated security levy. 2012 to 2018. That one is 12 billion.
Yes, sir.
Then you have proposed security levy for 2019. You got 10 billion. Then you have BASA fund, 537 million. So you have a total of 41 billion. That is your grant. So now, whatever this 41 billion, right? Not out of 18 billion.
Let me just make a point.
So I want that clarification now.
The NTA budget stops for revenue generation stops at the 8.6. That's what I read. Because the BASA and security revenue is money generated for the aviation industry. The security levy is has to do with the security of flights based on the $20 paid by every passenger. Since the incident of Abdul Muttalib, that's when this revenue line was created by the federal government.
You charge?
Yes, the passengers pay.
Where are these revenue?
It's in CBN, sir.
No, this, aside the 18 point something billion.
Yes.
My colleague just discovered additional
Yes.
revenue.
Yes.
Totaling about 20 billion.
Yes.
Now, this 20 billion, the BASA fund,
The security levy
is also revenue generated by them.
Yes. We actually are custodians of the revenue on behalf of federal government.
You are custodian of that revenue.
Yes, sir.
And that money is now the central bank of Nigeria.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Do you carry out any expenditure from that?
No, we don't.
So, till date, how much do you have in that particular account with central bank, starting from 2012 to 2019?
Well, like I said, sir, what the report is showing is cumulated. So the money just keeps dropping as the passengers fly and they pay and it's accumulated in CBN. The expenditure is for the aviation industry. It's not spent, it's controlled by the ministry. It's not controlled by NTA.
No, let me get this thing clear.
All right, sir.
This is another source of revenue.
Yes, it is.
And you have established before this committee that this revenue for the last almost 8 years
Yes.
has been in Central Bank of Nigeria.
Yes.
Even though it's in your own custody.
Yes.
And you are the custodian of that committee in Central Bank.
Yes.
And this committee are viewed as an agency. Carry out any expenditure from that fund, said no.
We don't authorize spending on the funds. It is authorized by the ministry. It is under the spending of the ministry. Whatever, it's all agencies. Hold on, sir. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. The ministry, the agencies, other agencies also submit their request, and it is approved globally for all of us. And then projects are approved from them.
Setting up NTA, that revenue are going to you from any source of the spend by the ministry.
No, but
is it an internal